And so what I found is everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And if you say that sentence a couple of times, it's a real brain twister, because it really takes you out of trying to conclude, trying to think, trying to figure everything out, and use way more than that, because we're not only our thinking, our feeling, and emoting, we're so much more than that. I mean, by the way, we have bodies, we have an incredible awareness, we have incredible awareness capacities that most of us people, whether we have those, diagnoses or not, that we haven't really acknowledged. And so a little tool that you can use to start, accessing that different part of you besides your thinking, feeling, and emoting, the thing that's in your head all the time, the movies that are going on in your head where you at the end cannot see anything else but everything that's going on in your head. You can use this, everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. So if you say that sentence a couple of times, you might see that, wow, thinking is not really easy after saying that, because it really, twists your brain. So everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And your point of view really does create your reality. So if you have the point of view that these diagnoses are disability, that is all you're going to see. So what if we, in this talk today, can look at a different perspective? And what if you now would be willing to let go of everything you've ever learned about ADHD, autism, ADD, and OCD? What if you can put everything you've learned so far in your education, everything you've read about, everything you've heard about, what if you could take that and just, put it somewhere else, put it outside your room or your car or wherever you are, and just let it be there and allow yourself to receive a totally different perspective of what's truly possible with these diagnoses.
Can I
So
butt in there,
the
Susanna?
X-Men are truly, sure, yeah, please.
Can I just ask, because I know it's going to be a question probably later on, that uh, using that logic of putting everything aside of what we've learned, that's all evidence-based stuff that we've been taught. So how would you um, say that what worked for you to 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 do that, or is that just a sort of a trust exercise?
Uh, so to number one, it's like just starting to be aware of how much you're using your brain, your thinking, and your logic to figure things out, and how much that is directing your life on a daily basis. And like it always starts with being aware of what is. So if you want to change something, 90% of that change comes from being aware of what you're actually choosing right now.
Mm.
So if you become aware of, wow, I'm basically a brain footer. I call it brain footer because small kids who start out drawing people, they start by drawing people. There's a big head and then the little feet attached. This is how small kids start drawing people. Um, and maybe they don't do it in Australia, but in Europe they do.
Yeah, no.
So they like they yeah. So if you have kids and you know how they start drawing people, they usually draw a big head and then little feet, and I call them brain footers because they're basically brain on feet. And this is so brilliant because we usually say that, well, the kids can't draw. No, that's actually brilliant awareness of how most people are functioning, because most people are basically their heads and then maybe they have little feet attached, because everything that people are functioning from is figuring out what is right and what is wrong. What should I do that is right? Which decision is right and what is wrong? So you're always trying to do the right thing and avoid the wrong thing. And this leaves you in a no-choice universe. It always leaves you into never creating more than your brain can figure out. It never takes you out of this box that you have decided is true and real. And this is one of the ultimate limitations that people are functioning from. And especially when we talk about these diagnoses, it's really amazing to become aware of how much of our time and energy we're using to try to things out, to think, to feel, and emote, when we're so much more than that. So how can you change this? I will give you a couple of tools during this talk,
Mm-hmm.
how you can start shifting that, where you can start accessing way more of you.
Mm.
And what is that way more of you? Well, so way of more of you means actually it's where you start accessing your being, your knowing, your perceiving, and your receiving. So thinking, feeling, and emoting is basically the lower harmonic of being, knowing, perceiving, and receiving. So being is basically like, when you take a walk in the woods and you start relaxing into your body and you start to be present not only in your head but in your whole being, this is when you start, this acoustic vibration of just being.
That's
That is
right.
being. And you start to receive everything around you. You don't only receive your thinking and your feeling, emoting, you like where you contract it into your body, but you start to receive everything that's around you. And you start to perceive and you start to know. And knowing is way greater than thinking. And I can give a small example of what that is. So I was actually in Australia in Mooloolaba, and at a conference, and on my way back to Sweden, and it was a really intense conference where we really started to access this being, knowing, perceiving, and receiving that the diagnosis we're going to talk about are experts in. So when I started to, not be able to think anymore because I was just being in so much space and so relaxed. So on my way from Australia, I was asked to fill in this card, this departing card. And so they asked me to fill in my name and all that, and that was fine. And then, they asked me to write the date. And I never know the date, so I checked my iBrain, my iPhone, and so it said the date, it said the month, and then it asked me to write the year. And my brain was so fried, I was like so just that space that I couldn't calculate anymore what year we had. So I was like, okay, so I could go up to a person and ask, hey, excuse me, sir, what year do we have? And I'm like, well, I might not do that. So I just asked the question, so what is the year that we have right now? And the number 2010 just came into my head. And I could not verify, I could not calculate whether that was true, right, or wrong. So I couldn't go chronologically, before it we had 2009, after that we're going to have 2011. I just knew 2010, the number was correct, without any doubt. And that is when I, for the first time, got the difference between thinking and knowing. Because thinking is where you try to figure out, if it's right or wrong. Knowing is just this instantaneous knowing that just comes to you and you just know it's correct and there's no doubt about it. So this is the knowing. This is where all the information is just available to us at all times, but we need to ask a question. So we don't have to work so hard. And I've seen it in so many times when I do neuropsychological testing with my clients. And we have like tests that are, they're, I don't know what they call it in English, but they're like pictures. They have to find the right matching picture of 5 alternatives. That, that is,
I think they call it or something.
I think Raven's matrices or something. I
Oh,
think
okay.
Raven's,
Yeah,
that,
good be.
yeah, so that's what we, yeah. So and you can do this test from trying to figure out what's the right answer and trying to really use your brain, and people get headaches and they really work a lot. Or you can access your knowing and ask, so which one of this one is correct right now? And the clients that I train that with, they usually know it instantaneously, and it usually is the correct answer. So it's a new muscle you can start building, where instead of trying to figure out, you are asking, and then you just pick the one that feels lightest, where you just know that's the one. So this is a capacity we all have, but we haven't really been taught, because the most valuable thing in this reality is thinking, figuring out, and trying to find the right answer. And what I found, and I know this is a totally different perspective than traditional psychology, and it's really a brain twister, and it so works, and it's really pragmatic. It's really doing what works in a way that's, using the easiest street, basically.